Today, we're diving into something our brains do every single day: cognitive dissonance. It's this incredible and sometimes kind of weird mental gymnastics we perform when what we believe clashes with what we actually do. And let me tell you, it explains so much about why we act so, well, irrational sometimes.
Oh, yeah, you've totally been there, right? You make that big, expensive purchase, and the moment a little buyer's remorse creeps in, bam, you suddenly become the world's greatest hype man for that product. But you're only selling it to yourself. You're not just enjoying it, you're justifying it hard.
So, what is that uncomfortable, nagging feeling? Well, it actually has a name, and once you understand it, you'll start seeing it everywhere.
And look, this isn't some kind of personal flaw. Nope. It's a fundamental part of our psychology. Our brains are basically hardwired to want consistency. So when our actions and beliefs don't line up, our brain pretty much declares a state of emergency. This brings us to a social psychologist named Leon Festinger. Back in the 1950s, he came up with a really groundbreaking theory to explain this exact kind of mental pain. He called it cognitive dissonance. Really, you can just think of it as mental stress. So, you believe you're a really sensible spender, but you just dropped a ton of money on the latest gadget. That's a clash. You think you're an honest person, but you just told a little white lie. Clash. That feeling, that's the tension we're talking about. Now, Festinger himself put it a bit more formally, like this. But in plain English, it just means idea A and idea B are fighting each other. For example, I really care about my health. That's idea A. But it's in total conflict with I smoke a pack of cigarettes every day, idea B. Your brain absolutely hates that contradiction and needs to fix it fast. So what's gotta give? Do you quit smoking? I mean, you could, but that's really hard. Your brain knows an easier way, a mental shortcut. Instead of changing the difficult behavior, you just change the belief. You start telling yourself, oh, smoking helps me relax. Or maybe, the health risks are probably exaggerated. See? The action stays the same, but poof, the mental pain is gone. Okay, this all sounds pretty plausible, right? But Festinger and his colleagues came up with some truly incredible proof, both in the controlled setting of a lab and out in the real world. So in 1959, Festinger and a colleague named J. Merrill Carlsmith designed this super clever experiment. They had people come in and do the most mind-numbingly boring tasks imaginable for a whole hour. We're talking turning pegs on a board over and over. Afterwards, they were asked to do a little favor. Tell the next person waiting that the tasks were actually really fun and exciting. But here is the brilliant twist. They paid half the people $20 to tell the lie, which was a pretty good chunk of change back then. So they had a really good reason and external justification for lying. No big deal. But the other half, they were paid just $1 single. Now, they had almost no good reason to lie. Their belief that task was horribly boring was in a huge clash with their action. I just lied about it for a measly buck. That created some serious dissonance. All right, so after they told the lie, everybody was asked to privately and honestly rate how much they really enjoyed the task. Now, you'd think the group that got paid more would be happier about the whole thing, wouldn't you? Well, the results were completely astounding, and they show you the sneaky power of dissonance. The $1 group, to get rid of that awful feeling of having lied for basically nothing, actually convinced themselves that the task wasn't that bad after all. They literally changed their own attitude to justify what they did. The $20 group? They didn't have to. They could just say, whatever, I did it for the money. And this effect isn't just something you see in a lab. A few years before that experiment, Festinger studied a real-world case that was honestly even more dramatic. He and his team went undercover inside a UFO cult. This group believed a giant flood was going to destroy the world on a very specific date and that only they would be rescued by aliens. They went all in, quit their jobs, sold their stuff. But when the big day came and went, and the world was very much still there, they faced a just catastrophic level of dissonance. So, did they just pack up and admit they were wrong? No way. The psychological pain would have been too much to bear. Instead, the leaders suddenly got a new message from the aliens. Their small group's faith had been so powerful and pure that God had decided to spare the entire planet. They didn't just stick to their belief, they doubled down, becoming even more passionate and started trying to recruit new people to prove to themselves that they were right all along. These stories are just incredible, right? And they reveal a whole set of mental tricks we all use, whether we know it or not, to escape that psychological pain of being wrong. So when our brain feels that conflict, it opens up a whole toolkit. We can change our belief, like the $1 group did. We can find new information that supports us, like the cult members did. We can trivialize it, just tell ourselves, it's not that big a deal anyway. Or, and this is a huge one for today, we can just actively avoid or attack any information that challenges our beliefs.
Does that sound familiar? It should. This is the psychological engine that drives social media echo chambers and our intense political polarization. It just feels so much better to be surrounded by people who agree with us than to face that uncomfortable feeling of having our deepest beliefs questioned.
Just take a look at how this plays out. A supporter sees a fact that doesn't look good for their candidate. Do they change their support? Not usually. The mental gymnastics kick in. They attack the source. Those economists are biased. They invent alternative explanations. They even trivialize the issue. Well, the economy isn't as important as more leadership anyway. And really, this is happening everywhere, all the time. Defending that super expensive phone you bought. Ignoring your doctor's advice about a bad habit. Insisting that your soul-crushing job is actually a great character-building experience. Yep, all of it is dissonance reduction in action. So what are we supposed to do? Are we just doomed to fool ourselves forever? Well, not necessarily. Just understanding how this works is the secret to breaking free.
Seriously, just knowing that cognitive dissonance is a thing is your most powerful weapon against it. The next time you feel that defensive, uncomfortable little twinge when someone challenges you, you can learn to recognize it. It's not a threat, it's a signal.
Here are a few things you can actually do. First, just pause. Resist that immediate urge to rationalize. Ask yourself, am I just trying to be right, or am I trying to get it right? Then go out and actively look for smart arguments from the other side. And here's a really fascinating tip from modern research. If you take a moment to affirm one of your core values, like how kind or creative you are, it can actually make you feel less threatened by a specific conflict, which in turn makes you more open-minded. How cool is that? And this isn't just about making you a better thinker. It's a tool for empathy. When you see someone doubling down on a belief that just seems completely absurd to you, you can see it for what it is. It's not just pure stubbornness. It's a powerful, deeply human drive to avoid the mental pain of being wrong. So I'll leave you with a question to think about. What cherished belief are you performing some serious mental gymnastics to protect right now? And what do you think would happen if you just decided to stop?